Good evening, and welcome to the Murfreesboro City School Board meeting. We will all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Good evening, Dr. Gilbert.
Good evening. Tonight we have first on your schedule, we have Mr. Ron Washington, who is Vice Mayor of the City of Murfreesboro here, and he has a proclamation from the city for the Murfreesboro City School Board.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. We'll try to make this short and sweet. Come on up here, Ms. Wade. On behalf of Mayor Tommy Bragg and my fellow council members, Doug Young, Vanna Scales Harris, Toby Gilly, myself, Shane McFarland, and Eddie Smotherman, I want to tell you how much I appreciate working with you board members for the last, it seems like forever. But I know for one thing, 5 of you are new to me. When I came on the board, 5 of you weren't out here. So I've watched you perform professionally since I've been on the board and before that. And I have to commend you for what you do with policy and not try to micromanage the system and allow the administration and the teachers to do what they do best, and that's educate children. So congratulations to you. From the Office of the Mayor, whereas an excellent public education system is vital to the quality of life of our communities and to the economic development of our state, and whereas school board members represent a tremendous resource as local decision makers, diligently working to meet the challenges of a dynamic world while ensuring that every child receives the services needed for a quality education. And whereas school board members recognize the importance of improvement and progress in education and accept the responsibilities involved with implementing those initiatives, and whereas the men and women elected by the people as members of our local school board deserve recognition and thanks for their countless hours of service to public education in Tennessee. Now, therefore, I, Tommy Bragg, Mayor of Murfreesboro, do hereby proclaim the week of January 19th through the 25th, 2014, School Board Appreciation Week in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and urge all citizens to join me in this worthy observance. Thank you, school board members.
Thank you, Mr. Washington.
We don't have an opportunity to say thank you and have a City Council Appreciation Week, but I do appreciate the support that the City Council has given us. I don't know that my signs would be as lovely as these behind us, but I do appreciate what the City Council does for the schools as well. They're just as committed, if not more, to the education of our kids.
And I'd like to recognize that Councilmember Doug Young has joined us this evening. Thank you.
On behalf of the Murfreesboro City School Board and our director, Dr. Linda Gilbert, if you don't mind, I'd like for the board members to please stand. This is your week. Please stand, and let's give a big hand to this wonderful school board. You'll stand. Thank you. At this time, we'll ask for a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So, second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Communications, Dr. Gilbert.
Thank you. First, with our communications, we have Corey Wells, who is here from Read to Succeed. Each year, we have a representative, and I think you were here last year, Corey, that talks about the one book selection. So welcome.
All right. Thank you so much for having me this evening. So I am here on behalf of Read to Succeed, which for 10 years now has been promoting literacy through a variety of programs here in our community. Reading in the Schools Day, the Reading Rally, and of course I know that you all know a lot about that. But tonight I want to talk about our program called The One Book, which is now in its 7th year. And each year, the One Book Committee partners with various community organizations, including Linebaugh Library, the Daily News Journal, and other partners. And we select a book that we encourage all adults in the community to read and discuss. This year, after having literary fiction, nonfiction, even some young adult fiction in the past couple of years, we have turned to a mystery, and it is called The Last Policeman by Ben Winters. Now, there is an asteroid on a cataclysmic collision course with Earth, so you get a little bit of that apocalyptic thing going on as well. But there is a young detective named Hank Pallas, and he is investigating what seems to be a suicide, which unfortunately is really common with the asteroid heading to Earth. But despite the fact that the infrastructure is falling apart, lots and lots of things are going wrong. His colleagues say, oh, let it go. But Hank Pallas wants to do the right thing. So our committee was very engaged with this young man and his determination to keep doing the right thing, even in the face of disaster. And with that disaster in mind, we are very glad that we have been able to partner this year with the Heart of Tennessee chapter of the American Red Cross. We also have got the MTSU Department of Physics and Astronomy doing some events with us, so you all watch in the news for things that will be coming up this winter and spring with regards to that. Well, as you know, I have a book here, and I don't leave with this book, so I need a willing reader to take this book, read it, visit our website, post some comments, and then pass it along so that we have more and more discussion of this book in our community. So do I have a volunteer?
Well,
All
Ms.
right, thank
Lanier.
you so much.
Jumped on that.
You jumped on that. I did. I love mysteries. I'm excited. I love mysteries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who do they go next? You want next?
Thank you all for your time tonight.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We would like to congratulate the School Nutrition Department and all of our schools because they have been recognized by the Department of Human Services External Program Review. They reviewed the Summer Food Services Program and they revealed no deficiencies at all in the record keeping. We would like to congratulate the following Discovery School students who were winners in the Colonel Hardy Murphy Chapter DAR Essay Contest. First place was to Emma Kate Jones, second place was to Brooke Smithson, and third place was to Cameron Bennett, and Cameron tied with a Blackman Elementary student for that position. So first, second, and third, not bad. Mitchell Nelson Schools would like to thank Mike DeFreer with U.S. Bank for his generous donation to the school. And then there are several people here and organizations the Outreach Department would like to thank, but I do think it's important that we acknowledge those folks. So the Outreach Department would first like to thank Diane Turnham. You will remember that she is a wonderful partner of ours at MTSU. And Conference USA, to any 13 volleyball championship participants, they donated snack packs to supplement our backpack food program. And then also I'd like to thank the MTSU Human Sciences Department, Dr. Beth Emery and Ms. Stephanie Bush there, and student leader Alexandra Malone, and other students in the Family Centered Community Building 2 for donating to our backpack program. And finally, we had a tremendous season of giving in 2013, and so I'd like to thank Greg for his leadership there and these organizations and people. General Mills, Jim and Judy Smythe, Unity Free Will, Band of Brothers, North Boulevard, Kingwood Church of Christ, Sonette P. of Bob Parks Realty, Riverdale ROTC Cadets, Bethel United Methodist Church, St. Mark's United Methodist Church, Barnabas Vision, the Murfreesboro Police Department. They did the Shop with the Cop that they do every year. Harvest Church, Club Yes, Believers Chapel, Community Care, St. Rose Church, Toys for Tots, the Salvation Army, West Main Mission, Fellowship United Methodist Church, the MTSU Psychology Department, Student Organization, and then teachers across the district that contributed to our season of sharing 2013. It was a wonderful, wonderful season for our children. At this time, I would like for Lisa Trail to come forward and to talk a little bit about what Whit Turnbow is doing at MTSU. You may have read, I think, Lisa, you tweeted, I believe, or MTSU may have tweeted, actually Whit tweeted originally about this, but I think it's worthy to share with our audience and also with the board.
Thank you. They're undergoing right now at MTSU TrueBlue Turnbow project. This all began because Friday on the way to work, Coach Whit Turnbow, the men's golf coach at MTSU, was driving to work, saw a child needed a coat. He actually sent one simple tweet saying, if you know of a child who needs a coat, let me know, and I'll make sure that they get a coat. From that, his simple tweet has turned into a large celebration. And Thursday night, men's basketball, MTSU will be conducting the TrueBlue Turnbow Project Coat Drive. So if you'd like to know more, if you'd like to participate, take a coat with you to the ball game on Thursday night. There's other drop-off points. I would suggest that if you want to know more details about it, go to Twitter, and it is at TrueBlue Turnbow Project, or you can also go and look for Coach Whit on Twitter, and he has everything listed there as well. So again, we want to say thank you to MTSU Athletics for once again thinking about our students, and not only our students, but the students from Rutherford County and Bedford County are benefiting from this project. So thank you.
Ms. Campbell.
Lisa, I think I'm correct. If people don't or cannot donate a coat, there will be places there that they can make a monetary donation to Whit and the program. Am I correct?
That is correct. Folks who don't want to buy a coat but want to go ahead and make a monetary donation can either make the donation to the Murfreesboro City Schools Indigent Children's Fund or to a fund very similar to that with Rutherford County Schools. So the money that is collected by Coach Turnbow during this project will go directly to benefit students who are in need of winter wear. So it may be a coat, it may be a scarf, mittens, those type things.
Ms. Phillips.
Do they need to be new? Can they be gently used products?
My understanding is they're taking new, gently used, clean, good products of all sizes. Keep in mind this is not only going to our city schools, but is also going to Rutherford County schools. So anything from a toddler size 5 up to adult larges will be great, or even larger than that, because there's plenty of children in high school who need a coat as well as those that are in our elementary schools. And again, if it is a gently used coat, I'm sure they're going to love to have it. And if you're cold, it doesn't matter if it's gently used or a brand new coat.
I love this because that's an example of how one person and one act can make just such a big difference. So thank you.
That's exactly right, Ms. Phillips. And that's the wonderful thing about this, is that the coach just simply sent out one tweet, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And we've already been the recipient of his gifts already at several of our schools. And other schools have also received gifts already of coats, and it really does make a difference on these cold days. Cool.
I believe, didn't Whit's wife and that Lori,
Yes,
she taught with city schools,
Yes.
and Jennifer is still teaching with city schools, so there's a big connection there, and I think Whit is to be commended for his efforts and the work that he's doing.
Absolutely.
Good project.
Lori is a PE teacher at Discovery, as a matter of fact, and Jennifer was with our system and decided with her, I think her second child, I believe, to stay at home this year, but absolutely wonderful teachers.
Yeah.
Right. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trail.
At this time, I'd like for Maria Johnson, please, to come up to the podium, and I'd like to formally introduce her to you. I think we met her when she came on board as an assistant principal, but now she ascends the throne as a principal. Maria is quite a young lady. I won't call you an old woman yet, Maria, although you do have several children. But she was the assistant principal at Scales. Prior to that, she had worked with as a juvenile counselor, as a mental health case manager, as a classroom teacher, and also as an assistant principal for Simpson Elementary School in Simpson County, Kentucky. She received her Bachelor of Science in Elementary Education from the University of Louisville and her Master of Arts degree in Education Administration from Western Kentucky. And she does have some children who live here in town and also a husband who we had the pleasure of meeting at the celebration the other night. So Maria has done a terrific job since she took over at Scales in January. I think that Don, and you really worked marvelously well with Don and Jenny, who remains there, of course. But I wanted to introduce you and let you say a few words. And then what I'd like for you to do is introduce your new assistant principal, if you would, after you've said whatever you want to say to the board.
Well, thank you, Dr. Gilbert, very, very much. It's truly an honor and a humbling to have been chosen as the new principal of Scales Elementary School. In my new role as principal at Scales Elementary School, I'm going to continue to have a strong focus on fostering high standards of education for our children, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with the students, the parents, and the faculty to ensure that we have another extraordinary year at Scales Elementary School. So thank you, Dr. Gilbert, for the opportunity. At this time, I'm going to introduce our newest assistant principal, Mrs. Natalie Hopkins. Ms. Hopkins comes to us with many talents, skills, and experiences. She's worked for Murfreesboro City Schools for 10 years. She's worked at Northville Elementary School and Cason Lane Academy. She's taught 5th and 6th grade and has served on many committees and had several leadership positions. So she's truly an asset. She also has a wealth of knowledge in data and data analysis. And we're going to use her talents to help us continue to grow our students at Scales Elementary School academically. So welcome, Natalie.
Thank you. I just want to say that I am so honored to continue my career at Murfreesboro City Schools. It has been an awesome career for my first 10 years, and I'm so proud of what we have accomplished so far, and I can't wait to continue that career with Maria and Jenny at Scales and what we're going to accomplish in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I would also like for Krista Campbell and Lee Wilkerson, please, to come up. And Lee, if you would please, what I would like is for you to talk about why you felt so strongly. I know that Maria felt very strongly about Natalie, and I know that you felt very strongly about Krista. So I will let you talk to the board about why Krista, and then and introduce her in that way, please.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert, very much. It's my honor to introduce Krista Campbell as the new assistant principal at Cason Lane Academy. She comes to us. She's been an educator since 1993, a very decorated educator in the Rutherford County school system. The last 14 years she spent at the McFadden School of Excellence. Her decorations include the School Site Teacher of the Year on 3 different occasions. She's received numerous awards for environmental education, and with a very hands-on approach to education and teaching children not only to learn but also to think, which is a critical element in the course of learning. Mrs. Campbell since she's been at Cason Lane, she has an energy level and a focus on children that is just what we need at Cason Lane, and it goes along with what we believe in that, making every decision based on what's in the best interest of children. So it's my pleasure to introduce to the board Mrs. Krista Campbell.
Thank you guys for having us tonight. Thank you, Mr. Wilkerson. It's been a whirlwind, actually, but an amazing one. I thank you all for what you do in the city, and I'm very excited to be a part of it. Cason Lane is a wonderful place to be, and the whole entire city and their mission with kids at their heart is exactly where I stand. And I appreciate the opportunity to grow with Cason Lane as they grow me, especially because they've been a blessing, and so has Dr. Gilbert and everyone who's held my hand the last week. So I appreciate that opportunity and look forward to the future. So nice familiar faces that I see out there too as well. Thank you.
And continuing with excellent people, I would like, please, for Lauren Beard to come forward, and also for Chick Knitter. These 2 teachers are amazing, and you should know both of them. Chick, of course, has been around a long time. Not that you're old, Chick. You've just been around a long time.
I always haven't had gray hair.
Lauren is relatively new with the district, but I think it's phenomenal that not only are our teachers presenting at state conferences, regional conferences, national conferences, but also are receiving state awards. And so you have before you two of our teachers who have received state awards. I'm going to start with you, Chick. Chick has been selected as the Titans Radio, American Paper and Twine, and Georgia Pacific Titans Teacher of the Year for the 2013 season. He was recognized during game day radio broadcast against the Houston Texans on the 29th, right after he had had knee surgery, and also received tickets to that game, of course, and then received a monetary gift to be used in his classroom. Chick is a phenomenal teacher. We will be sending all of our sixth grade students and some other students to an event that's called FMA Live, and I had the pleasure of experiencing that. It's a science showcase, really, at Patterson Park. We had it here about 3 years ago, I guess, and we're having it again because he contacts them and says our children deserve that. He also has been responsible for the greenhouse that some of you are very aware of at Hopgood and really cares about his students. So, Chick, I'd like for you to please talk to the board a little bit about what a good teacher does, because you are certainly an excellent teacher. But what do you look for in teachers?
Well, I just tried to keep up the one next door to me or across the hall, basically, because at Hopgood Elementary and in Murfreesboro cities we have quite a few of those. So, honestly, I was humbled to receive that because there's so many that Dr. Garrett could have, recommended and written about. I'm just, proud to be part of this family because there are so many outstanding teachers in our district.
He does an amazing job, and there's a reason to be proud of what he does.
Mr. Nader, this sounds like something right up Murph's alley. When you're talking that science thing at Patterson Park, when is that?
It's amazing. The date is yet to be set, though we're hopeful that it's the second week of April on a Friday. I'm not exactly for sure of the actual date, but yes, it was here 3 years ago, and it is a performance that is unbelievable, and welcome all of you to come out to that. But I would love to get with you and discuss that for sure, because it is just. It's something you would see on TV. It's a production. It's a production, but it's driven by science and getting kids interested in STEM.
Thank you.
It stands for force, motion, and acceleration.
Right. Newton's laws of motion.
Mr. Mint.
Mr. Nader is one of my favorite people to give a hard time. He deserves it most of the time, but you also are an outstanding teacher, and the ministry that you do for children is just amazing. And when we talk about Hopgood, it is hard not to talk about Mr. Nader. So thank you. You earned this award. You're being humble about it, but just be excited and enjoy the experience because you did earn it. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
The other teacher is Lauren Beard, and Lauren is at Northfield. She is the PE teacher there, and she was named the Tennessee Teacher of the Year by, and I will read the whole thing, the Tennessee Association for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance. And the reason that she was recognized, according to the Tapered, I think is the way you say that, is Ms. Beard was selected for the award based on her high standards of excellence in the classroom and then the expectations she has for her students. She consistently strives to remain current with the trends in pedagogy in the field of physical education. Her physical education program is age and developmentally appropriate for children. So I want to thank you for being here. And I would like, if you would, Lauren, I know that Northfield is really a premier school for the SMART program. Would you please share with the board, because I think that's indicative of what you do.
The SMART program started this year with kindergarten grade level. What it is we bring the whole kindergarten group into the gym, and they spend about 4 to 5 minutes that require like spinning and getting the brain activated for movement. Once that happens, they go into their different groups, and with those groups you have your fine motor station, you have your gross motor station, you have your art,
balance, and then we bring in the physical education skill standards that the state has set. And they go through every day for 4 minutes of rotation for 45 minutes. That's the block of time that we have. The special area teachers, and then we have several educational assistants that come on board, and we sit down and we plan out what this is going to look like for the week. And they are responsible for setting up their stations and helping run so that the students have a positive experience at each of their stations. And the SMART program's geared to start activating the right and left brain, so when they go back to the classroom that they can, learn and be focused, and hopefully that what they're learning can be concreted into their little minds.
So it's really a fascinating program that we are having in our schools. We've implemented it in all schools. Some are more into it right now than others. We're still working with some. But Lauren does a great job. It's a really kinesthetic program that really primes the brain for learning for the day.
I just had a couple of questions. It sounds fascinating, Ms. Speer. Who sponsors this, and are you doing any data, gathering data to see how effective it is for how it impacts kids in the classroom later or not? Or what are we doing?
The Coordinated School Health is the one that sponsors it. They give us the resources that we need to make it successful. The data, each school's collecting some sort of data. I do a lot of the locomotor skills at my station, and out of 110 kindergartners, we have 4 that cannot skip, which is amazing because that is one of the toughest skills to teach. Our librarian, Janet Pascal, does the Creek Track, and with the Creek Track, you use the right and left brain, and they do the sight words for the week. And so she's able to hear them say the words, make sure they're saying the words correctly. So we're kind of, documenting as we're going along. So it'll be neat to see, when they progress through first grade, how, did this really, progress with them.
Right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And thank you, Chick. Thank you, Lauren. Terrific. Thank you.
Consent items. Is there a motion for the approval of our consent items?
So moved.
There's a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Dr. Gilbert, action items?
Yes, you have an action item before you that is a resolution, approval of a resolution. This resolution is in opposition to a statewide or alternate charter school authorization or oversight, very similar to the one that you signed last year. However, that bill is still on the floor. And so you have that resolution before you. If you'd like for me to read that resolution, I can do so, or if you...
Please.
Okay. A resolution of the Murfreesboro City School Board in opposition to statewide or alternate charter school authorization or oversight. Whereas public education unifies America and forms the bedrock of our freedom as a nation, and whereas the Murfreesboro City School Board is responsible for providing a local system of public education, and whereas the Murfreesboro City School Board consists of members who are popularly elected by the citizens of Murfreesboro, and whereas local school boards are held responsible for the success or failure of public schools, including charter schools, by state and by the electorate, and whereas for the past 10 years, local school boards have successfully authorized and had oversight of charter schools in Tennessee, and whereas the State Board of Education has in place an appeals process if a charter application is denied by the local board, and whereas decisions impacting public education should be made by the elected school board, which has a physical presence in the community, rather than by an outside entity with no such presence, and whereas the establishment of a statewide or alternate authorizer or oversight authority would usurp the responsibilities entrusted to locally elected school boards by their constituencies, therefore be it resolved that the Murfreesboro City School Board opposes any legislation to create statewide or charter or alternate charter school authorization or oversight that would bypass local boards of education.
Are there any questions for Dr. Gilbert or any comments? Seeing none, Dr. Gilbert, if you would read the... Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Renier, do you have a...
I was just going to say thank you for writing it, because I feel like it's on all of our hearts. We're all concerned about this, and we certainly appreciate it.
Mr. Barrett.
Anytime we take local control from our school board, it's just
not a good idea, and I'm glad we're taking a stand on this and letting the state know about it. So thank you.
The second resolution is a resolution of the Murfreesboro City School Board in opposition to a voucher program in Tennessee. Whereas the Murfreesboro City School Board is responsible for providing a local system of public education, and whereas vouchers, frequently called opportunity scholarships, would siphon critical dollars and commitment away from public education to pay for private education tuition for a few students, and whereas the Constitution of the State of Tennessee has no mention of the maintenance or support of private or religious schools, and whereas promises of great improvement in the test scores of students who use vouchers in closing the achievement gap are not supported by evidence, and whereas the State Board of Education and Tennessee Department of Education have established nationally recognized standards and intensive measures for accountability in public education, and whereas Tennessee is already engaged in intentional and purposeful efforts to increase the academic achievement and close the achievement gap for all students, and whereas over the past 3 years the intentional and purposeful efforts of Tennessee's public school teachers and administrators have produced the largest academic gains in the history of the Tennessee Comprehensive Assessment Program, known as TCAP. And whereas this year Tennessee had the largest growth of any state in a single testing cycle since the National Assessment of Educational Progress, known as NAEP, began nationwide assessments a decade ago, therefore, be it resolved that the Murfreesboro City School Board opposes any legislation or any other similar effort to create a voucher program in Tennessee that would divert money intended for public education to private schools.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. Are there any questions or comments?
Amen.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gilbert.
Thank you.
And thank you, Board.
Is there a motion for the approval of these two action items?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second for the approval. All in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Are there any that oppose?
Where do our local legislators, anybody know how they stand on either one of these items?
Mr. Renier?
I don't know particularly how they stand, but Mr. Barrett and I were and Ms. Wade were at the meeting last week at Cason Lane, and only 3 of them attended, and Dr. Brown, only 3 of them attended, and they led us to believe that this was not a done deal, and excuse me, that there would be more coming up about it, and not to, I took it as not to be terribly concerned about this right now. So I don't know exactly how they stand. One of them, I won't mention the name, said that he needed to think about it more. So the other 2 were quite, I think they think things are being pushed through a little too quickly, and now that they've studied it a little bit more, they're, I think, more in a let's wait kind of attitude.
I had talked to them, but didn't know whether you got the same feeling that I got or not.
There's the upcoming Day on the Hill in February for Tennessee school boards, and I urge everyone to attend who can attend that day.
I believe that we have invited our legislators, Ms. Ridley, is that not correct, to be there that day with us? Okay.
Wonderful. Good. It's good to hear. And certainly we'd like to thank MEA and Ms. Ty Batts for the gracious invitation each time they have a meeting to invite the board out. And that was an informative meeting that night. Reports and information.
Mr. Anderson.
The first item on your agenda is the audit report. Mr. Del Crossland from Crossland Associates, our audit firm, is here to present information about the audit that we had for the fiscal year ending in June 30th. And so, Crossland, if you make your way up here. And the board always asks for that we have this presented at a board meeting so they can hear it, and so you would tell them about our audit.
Well, more good news, but not the kind of good news you're hearing. This is sort of old news, but we're glad to be here. I'm going to be talking from this booklet primarily, and then later on I might hit the financials. First of all, my name is Dale Crossland. I'm the managing partner of Crossland Associates, and I'm standing in for two of my cohorts, Tim Nowak and David Hunt, who are in Oklahoma and Omaha. So I'm glad to be here. I've done this before, but not recently, so it's a good opportunity for me. Our task is to cover this booklet and then have a few high-level comments on the financial statements, primarily to fulfill our responsibility to you guys who are the governance of the city schools. I mean, you're really the folks who hire us, and we're reporting to you. On page 1 is we start this book. I'm going to summarize, and if anybody has any questions, I know sometimes this gets a little stale, but if anybody has any questions, just stop and ask me. If not, I'm going to go rather rapidly so you can get on to more interesting things. Our responsibility is to report to you what we've done, and we've audited the financial statements of the city school system for June 30th and issued our report dated November 26th. Our report is what now they call unmodified, which in prior years was clean. So it's the best opinion you can get. There is, absolutely nothing, no comments that you should be concerned about. We're in the process of doing the internal school funds report, and we expect to issue that by February the 15th, 2014. That's been extended officially with the state, so there's no problems. There's nothing that you need to be concerned about in that report. It's really due to just the lengthy process of putting all the numbers together and in a single set of financial statements. There's no concerns that you need to be concerned about.
Mr. Crossland, I have a question.
Sure.
First of all, welcome.
Thank you.
You're right. It's been a long time, but welcome, Ben. I'm always glad to have you come and present in front of for the folks at home too, so they can hear.
Right.
I'm so glad to hear we have an is it unmodified? You said
Unmodified.
Unmodified. I have a question. You said the internal school report. Now, don't we usually get that at the same time?
You do, and there were some circumstances this year on our part and your part which caused it to be a little late. And then we got it out of cycle, so in the future we expect it to be delivered at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
We had some deaths on our staff where some of our team had to leave and go back out of state, and that got us a little out of cycle.
Thank you, thank you.
But it's really just a matter of putting the numbers together.
Okay.
But we have we have an extension, and we have to March 31st to do it, but we're shooting for February 15th.
Okay.
Okay. Our consideration under OMB Circular A133 is we review internal controls and try to identify any controls which could have a material effect on a major program if the programs weren't working. And we do not give an opinion on internal control, but we review internal controls to see are the controls there which would keep some material exception from happening, and we had no problems with that. On page 2, when we're doing the financials, we're looking for material misstatements, and we perform tests to determine that you're in compliance with laws, regulations, and so forth, which could have an effect on the numbers and your responsibilities. We also look to see if you meet the compliance requirements of OMB A133. There's a compliance supplement which says the various laws and rules that you're being complied with. It is not a legal determination to see legally are you in compliance, but it's a practical compliance, and we found no exceptions. On down, management's really responsible for picking the accounting policies that the school district follows, city school system follows, and the two larger items that you make estimates of the useful life of capital assets and the amounts for property taxes that you actually have as a receivable and the amount that you have deferred. We're in agreement with the estimates that were made, and we're in agreement in the financial statements. You'll see Note A, which it talks about all the accounting policies. We're in agreement with the policies that you're following. On page 3, there were no difficulties that we had in performing our audit except this little timing situation for the activity funds. There were no past adjustments that when we got through with the audit that we did not make. example. Many of the adjustments management found, we had a few that corrected things, management agreed with them, and all of those are made in the financial statements. We had no disagreements during the audit process. I'll talk a little later about our management representation letter, which I have a copy of. We did not identify any fraud or fraudulent acts or any illegal acts during our procedures. One of the things that sometimes comes up is where management asks for an opinion of a different firm, what we call a second opinion. We do not believe any of that happened this year, or really it's never happened in the history of us auditing your school system. On page, the next page, page 4, sometimes management talks to accounting firms and says, well, if you do certain things this way, then you can be hired, and if you're not, you won't. We did not have any of those discussions with your team as a condition of us being retained as auditors. On page 5 is our letter that basically states management is responsible for maintaining effective internal control systems, and that our internal control situation is to determine if there's any material weaknesses. And during the process of our work, we did not note any significant deficiencies, which is a step right below material weaknesses in your internal control system. And that's what that letter says in many, many words. And that's good. That's a clean opinion for that. The next page, on page 6 through page 11, is what we call, you call it the management letter, we call it a representation letter, letter of representation. And that's a letter where we establish responsibility, that the board and management's responsible for the financials and we're responsible for auditing them. And then management makes certain recommendations and certain representations to us about the financial statements. And so what importance is that to the board is just to read all the various things that management's represented to us during the course of our audit. It's standard, and there's nothing you should be concerned about there. I don't know, do you all have the financial statements with you? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to hit this really pretty quick. As you can see, it's about a, 64-page document. I know you're very familiar with these, so I'm just going to go through it. Our independent auditor's report, which is on page 3, but page 3 is not numbered, is, as I said, unmodified or clean. There is a format change. I guess it really changed last year. This is the second year that the format's changed. It goes through the steps of saying what's management responsible for, what we're responsible for. It then has an emphasis paragraph which basically says that your financials are included in the city of Murfreesboro and that we're not responsible for reporting on the city financials. And then the rest of it is talking about compliance with governmental auditing standards and the tests that we have to do that I'm going to go over to show that you're in compliance with the rules and regulations of the federal government. On page 18 is the first one I'll talk about.
Can I go back?
Sure.
Okay. And I'm just asking for information. Page 6, revenues were $69.38 million compared to expenses, which I think is about $1.5 million difference.
Mm-hmm.
Where did that money's come from?
Do you want to talk on that? This is management's discussion and analysis of the financial statements.
Okay. Is that from grants or whatever, page 6, Gary?
In this book or the?
On the financials.
I don't have the audit book with me.
Let's see.
I'm sorry.
Here, you can look at mine.
Well, it just says overall expenses were $69.38 million as compared to overall expenses of, revenue is $69.38, expenses $70.88. So is that difference, what, grants and items such as that?
Well, what
It's
it's
a
showing
difference
is,
of expenses over every kind of revenue source.
yes, it's showing that we had more expenses than we had in our overall total revenues for the year.
Okay, so the revenue was 69, expenses were 70
Yes.
plus, okay? So where did we get the difference between the 69.38 and the 70.88?
Out of our fund balance.
Okay.
Fund balance and timing, a lot of it's timing.
Did that have to do with maybe things we took out of fund balance, buses? And
It's real close to the amount of the buses, yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
On page 18, I point out that the total fund balance of governmental funds is about $7.8 million, and that's consistent with our prior years. I think it's up about $17,000, including what we've just talked about. Also, that the only balance in the $7 million is the unassigned amount, which is not restricted or committed for any special purposes. So you've got about $5.4 million that way. The next page would be page 52. And I wanted to discuss that a little bit of the state award numbers, the expenditures of about $32 million this year, which increased about $1 million from the prior year based on amounts received under the basic education program. So you were up about $1 million there. On page 53, you have the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, which is about $7.1 million, and that decreased about $800,000 from the prior year, and really was a result of some of the ARA funded grants and Race to the Top expiring during the year. So you had expenditures of about $32 million from state funds, and you had about $7.1 million from federal funds. On page 56, which really, it's not numbered because it's our letterhead, but it's the page before 57, is our report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance. It's the first one that's got our letterhead on it. And it's a report on compliance and other matters based on the audit of the financial statements in accordance with governmental auditing standards. Again, I say we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control which we consider to be material weaknesses. We do not audit internal control, but we review controls to determine the tests we need to do to be sure there are no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in your system. If you had a material weakness would be a situation where errors could happen and not be noticed. No issues were noted in our of non-compliance, which we are required to report. The next page would be page 58, which is the second letter from us, and it's on a report on compliance with each major program on internal control over compliance by OMB Circular A133. And you complied in all material respects with the types of requirements that could have a material effect on each major program. We look at your controls to determine if the controls are adequate to keep something from happening which would cause you not to be in compliance. We did find one instance which we're going to talk about, which we think was an isolated instance. And we give an opinion on page 59 that, in our opinion, you complied in all material respects with the requirements referred to above that could have a direct and major effect on each federal program. That's where we opine upon your various programs. If you go to page 61, it's an overview of the results of our audit, and it's sort of interesting that we do a lot of our work. We have guides yay thick that we have to follow to test all of the work that you do, and you get this one-page report. And in your case, it's all good. If you get yeses, you could be in trouble. But in your case, we found no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies either in the financial statements or the federal awards, and we did not have any findings that need to be reported. And that's good. and that means that's the best you can get. On page 62, we show that our threshold for selecting the programs that we audit is $300,000, and you are a low-risk auditee. So that's positive. If you are not a low risk, then we have to expand our testing quite a bit, which costs you bucks to do it. We tested 2 major programs that totaled about 25% of the federal expenditures. We tested the child nutrition cluster and then the ARA race to the top, and we did not find any findings. On page 63, we do have a finding, but we think this is an isolated error and not a significant deficiency or material weakness. It all relates to program funds that were drawn down in excessive costs. The way yours works, you spend the money, then you request the funding. In this particular case, in December 12, there was some money requested prior to spending it. The federal project administrator inadvertently did that. They knew about it. They corrected it very quickly, but we still have to make a recommendation that you put policies in place to keep that from happening in the future. Maybe someone in the accounting department reviews it before it happens, or you put some sort of controls in place. Management's response is that they're working with the accounting department to put procedures in place that will prevent this from happening in the future. This is not a common occurrence. It's isolated, and that's why we did not consider it a material exception. We did meet with Melissa Wright, City of Murfreesboro, and her team at the beginning of the field work, and we did talk about our report and whether it was going to be in compliance with what we submitted to the city. So it's included in their CAFR. And I think with that, that's my report, unless you have any questions.
Mr. Campbell and then Mr. Barrett.
And this may be for Gary, I don't know. Page 45, commitment, our custodial services. We're spending $900,000 a year on that. Is that private companies that we are hiring, putting out bid to clean schools and whatever?
That's through our contract with the custodial service company, GCA, and that's about what it's costing us every year to clean our schools.
Okay, and that through that service, that's not our employees, that's through their service, is that right?
That's correct. It's the janitorial service company, and we have contract with them to do that service.
Okay. Then over on page 49, did we end up in the red on ESP this year or last year, 2013?
No,
we have. Am I reading that wrong?
No, we have a fund balance.
That's a budget.
Yeah, we have a fund balance in the extended school program. It's positive. Ended with $740,689.
That deficit is just a comparison of budget to actual.
Thank you. Okay.
It's right here.
That answers my question.
This figure is how much they have. The other is how much it was down from last year.
Just 2 questions. How long have we been using Mr. Crosland or Gary or Mr. Lee? Y'all can answer that question.
Ever since I've been in position, at least 7 or 8 years. I know of at least 7 years.
7 or 7. Okay. Just that was one question. And the other question is, where are we on these recommendations? You said you're working on them now, or still working on them?
As far as the one
minor, the one exception.
What it boils down to is to have our interim finance director make sure that she checks it before it's actually pushed the button to submit it. That's what it boils down to.
Okay.
Yeah. And like we said, we believe that's an isolated. She was aware of it. It was just a timing issue.
Okay. Are there any other questions, Mrs. Smith?
I think I have an idea, but where is our fund balance now?
Right now, our fund balance is at $6,018,810. And
That's pretty accurate,
what,
Mr. Anderson.
well, that's what the fund balance is at the end. What I wanted to explain is from that number, it's hard to tell at this point because our revenue stream hasn't really started to hit us yet. So when you look at the financial report later tonight, you'll see how much we are in the, I'll say in the red. And that's because we catch up with the property tax and sales tax that come in, which we should go over that line in January's and February's reports. So right now, if you look at it that way, we're down to like $4 million. If you look, I wanted to give you where we ended and where we are right now. It's really hard to tell because we don't get those property tax dollars really until February, March, and April.
Thank you.
Ms. Phillips?
I have just a real quick question. Are we going to get growth funds this year?
No, we will not get any growth funds this year.
Oh, first year in.
We got some last year. We didn't get any the year before. We got a lot the year before that. It's up and down. The state has left the same amount of growth money. It's been the same number for years and years, and they keep changing the bar as to what is. Yes, some years it's 2%. Last year was 0.6% of growth, and we just haven't had the growth this year to cover what I think we'll get any fund balance for.
Okay, thank you.
Any extra money for.
Thank you, Mr. Costa.
You're welcome. I'd like to thank Gary and his team for helping us during the audit, and answering all of our questions and making it as smooth as we could. And I'd like to thank the board for continuing to hire us. We appreciate your business.
Thank you.
If I could call your attention to Ms. Beth Prater out here. She is the interim finance director. She's hiding back there. She's very shy, too. She's our interim finance. She heads up the team. We have Becky Sally, who also is in finance, Marisa Loomis, Dina Thomas, Joe Lassiter, Rachel Blum, and the secretary for the department, Pam Holden. And I just want to, they never get recognized publicly. I just wanted to have the chance to say thank you to the ladies for the wonderful job they do, and all the school bookkeepers who also do a fabulous job for our district.
You mean you don't do this all yourself?
No, sir, I don't.
Thank you very much. Thank
you.
I just want to say congratulations to Dr. Gilbert, Mr. Anderson, Ms. Prater, and the team back there for that hard work. And I know it's a big, big job, and to be able to come and tell our people at home that their tax dollars are being handled with extreme care, and it's just, I'm so proud of what you all do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Wade, if you don't mind, I'd like to go item C and then come back to B.
Not a problem.
But, at this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Doug Young. Mr. Young is their chief of the City Schools Foundation. But while you're there, I want to thank you, and also I want to thank Vice Mayor for your support of the city schools on the council, because we could not do what we do without you. And I know I only come to you when I need you, but thank you for being there when we do need you. So I'll let you talk about the excellence in education now.
I've got the best report, a very short report. I am the chairman of the Murfreesboro City Schools Foundation, and I want to give you a report on our City Schools Foundation Excellence in Education Celebration, which was held last Friday at the Stones River Country Club. We honored Dr. and Mrs. Elizabeth McPhee as our honorees this time. Our trustees and our John Pittard School, which was our honored school, worked tirelessly to put on a great show and a great opportunity to highlight our school system and our schools, our principals, and our teachers. We sold 33 tables. We had almost standing room only, and I'm proud to announce that we raised $90,000. Wow. The City Schools Foundation last year presented $35,000 in grants to teachers and $19,000 in parity money. We have given back to the school system in the last 7 years over $400,000. And I'd like to thank everybody that participated. We've really got a good program, and we're putting all the money back where it's needed most, to the school systems and the teachers who write the grants that make the icing on the cake. So that's my report. If there are any questions,
I just want to thank you, Mr. Young, for leading the City Schools Foundation with such good humor and vigor. And I also want to acknowledge our representative, Ms. Smith, Collier Smith. She just goes in there and does a fabulous job with whatever she undertakes. Really do appreciate that.
Thank you.
And also Ms. Trail back there. I know she really contributes a lot to what happens, the success of the foundation, and just all of you together and all the other representatives there.
Yes, I'd like to also thank Ms. Trail and Ms. Leslie Etherly for providing us superior support and guidance in that, along with our director, and we really got it going on.
Yeah. $90,000 worth. That's great.
That's right.
Yeah.
I want to acknowledge, you said it, but there are a number of parents and teachers and people who've been involved, also trustees from the foundation, and maybe Greg Lyles, that we're maybe steaming and ironing, but every little effort that was done to save money in order to make money, I appreciated that. There was a lot of good hard work, and I appreciate the investment that our community made in the schools.
The decorations are done mostly by the parents of the honoree school, and I can report that Collier is a very good ironer and that Greg is a very good steamer, and that they work tirelessly all day to make this happen.
But what about, I thought this was super cool, that they had painted branches. There were white branches with snowflakes that they had made as a
Crystal snowflakes
that they had made as science projects.
Mm-hmm.
And on the tables, there were framed little essays about what the students had learned, and some about how they had made some mistakes and helped them learn from their science projects that they incorporated with the decorations. I thought that was fantastic.
That's great.
Yeah, it was a fabulous evening. It really was. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sometimes we get questions, Ms. Wade, about the funds and where they go as far as the grants. This is one resource where our teachers can have those things that make the science experiment special, or that make the reading special, that we don't normally have funds for. And so it's really a benefit to our teachers and primarily to our students to have a resource like this. So I wanted to let the audience know that those funds go directly to the teachers' classrooms and to augment what they're already doing. So it's pretty special. At this time, I'd like for Dan Boshears and Karen Hopkins to come forward, please, and give you an update about the technology rollout that we're having. Dan has been very involved with rolling out a huge number of machines. Karen has worked side by side with him, but she really is taking the lead when those computers get in the classroom because of the staff development that's happening with the teachers. But I do want to acknowledge our technology staff. I don't know another school system that has tried to have this rollout this huge. When you're looking at 5,000 machines or more, plus infrastructure for that. So I'd like for you to give an update, please, Dan, on where we are with that.
Good evening. Thank you for... First of all, let me thank you for entrusting the Technology Department to take on this endeavor board, Gary, Linda, and I would like to thank you for letting us come here tonight and tell you what's going on. We have a lot of exciting things going on, and we have installed currently, I know you have a more detailed report in front of you, but we have currently installed an iPad cart and a laptop cart in every classroom. We started with the fifth grade class. We started with the teachers first, so they could go ahead and have those in their hands and help the students. And now we started with the fifth grade to make sure they had all their laptops in hand for the writing assessment next month. And now we're going back and starting in the sixth grade in the school and working down. We have, as of this afternoon, we have just a few left, and we have 4 schools complete. They should have all their laptops ready. I have an amazing staff, and I can't say enough about them. They have really helped out. They have really shown their colors in all this, and other departments have chipped in, I should say, and helped us out along the way. But I can answer any questions. I know you got a more detailed report, but answer any questions you'd like.
My question, I don't know, it might be better directed to you, Dr. Gilbert, and that is, the writing assessment, is it in 2 parts this year for the fifth graders?
The fifth grade writing assessment will actually be, and Karen, you may want to address this, but the important part about the writing assessment this year is it will not count as far as accountability.
Okay.
So that's a very good thing, because we are required to do it online, so all school districts are required to do it online. We have just been receiving really what it will look like as far as the administration. Our school system is fortunate because one of the things that you have to have for this assessment is really, you have to have the capacity, not just the devices, but the capacity. So Dan talks about moving from a 2-lane road to an 8-lane superhighway. And I think that we are either complete with that or have a couple schools that we're still working, but would you talk about switches? Because I know one of the things that we've talked about here are the number of switches, and then I'll come back, Ms. Phillips, with having Karen talk a little bit about that assessment and what it looks like.
I wasn't quite, that was,
okay, go ahead.
I
I'm
had
sorry.
more. I'm just wondering how much practice on the laptops are the kids going to get, and have they had keyboarding up from now to get them where they are able to keyboard?
And I'll let Karen address that. We are not nearly where I would like for us to be, but we're certainly better than where we were. And that's not, I mean, that's a rotten kind of answer. But I think the fact that now we do have the devices where the students can spend an adequate amount of time so they don't just have the keyboard labs or they don't just have a few computers in the classroom will make a huge difference. I think when the test counts, which will be next year, there'll be no question we'll be ready. We do have the keyboarding software that is in the process or has been installed on the computers. So there is that in place. I know that the teachers are using it, and again, I'll let you address that a little bit, but the infrastructure is there now so the teachers can use it, which we did not have. So that's a good thing.
That is a good thing, and I know the transition is going to be huge. I guess I worry. It's good that it doesn't count this year, and that we have a whole year to work on it. I guess I worry a little bit that, you know, we have fabulous teachers, but some teachers are more techno-savvy than other teachers, and I don't want any child to be at a disadvantage because maybe they're not using technology as often in their work as a child in another class. Right. So it's just something I know you're keeping on top
and
of.
I think the advantage of our going to the 2-to-1 will certainly help prevent that. I think if we only had those children in a lab 30 minutes a week, or if we only had 4 computers in a classroom instead of what we have, really, when we talked about the proposal, we talked about immersing the students. And I think the advantage of this, and I was with a couple of teachers last night, and they were talking about the fact that they have already worked out when they're going to have the complete set in their classroom so that they're going to be borrowing each other. But even if they don't do that, even having the 2-to-1 is going to allow students to be sitting by each other and to work on projects and to work on the keyboarding. So I think where before there may have been time in a classroom that you could have the 4 students pulled away from the group and working on the computer, we don't have that luxury anymore. We have to really have whole group instruction and small group instruction. But when we use the computers, it has to be very intentional so that they're used for writing. They are not used just for practice. That's part of it, but it's bigger than that. So Karen, would you talk a little bit about the training and what's happening with that?
Yes, as far as the keyboarding on the computers right now, our students have just gotten these computers this week. So for us to say that we're fully immersed in Type to Learn, I can't say that. I feel like that all of the student classes are loaded in. We've started some of the process with telling teachers about it. I talked to the company today. We actually have a webinar for Type to Learn, so teachers can watch that on their own. It's like 28 minutes, and it goes through step by step on how to help them get it set up. And really and truly, because we're shifting in the middle of the year, we're trying to put together as many resources that teachers can kind of pull and figure out how to do some of these things. But prior to this, before we had this implementation, a lot of schools were doing keyboarding in their computer lab. They had online programs that students could access. So I don't think I don't believe we're going to be where we need to be, but I don't see panic in the eyes of teachers when they're talking about the keyboarding. I think they're probably more concerned about what that state testing site's going to look like, and that's a mystery to everybody in the state. We're trying to figure that out as we go. So this year, I would hope that students would just take a deep breath and do the best they can and say this is a learning experience, and next year will be a lot better. Because we do have a program that is designed to be very systematic in helping students learn to type, and I've told them in faculty meetings that all children from grades 2 through 6 are going to need to work on typing skills. That's just a fact of life.
Right.
And I feel like we have a good tool to help us do that. This particular tool is designed to work in grade bands, so if I'm a kindergarten through 2nd grade student, I have words and vocabulary that I'm familiar with. Teachers can even put in their own vocabulary for students to type. So I think that it'll be a well-received program in our district. Right now, our efforts are, we've been to all the schools and distributed the teacher computers. We finished up with Case and Lane, I guess, yesterday afternoon, so now all of our teachers have their computers. We concentrated on the new platform, the Windows 8, just getting them started, getting them into the software, understanding how to turn the computer on, turn the computer off. I mean, it is a little bit of a shift for them. And so that has been a focus. We also have access to a great resource, and that's Microsoft 365. That's where all of the Microsoft products are online, and you can actually go online and save your documents to an online space, and every teacher and every student has access to that so that they have a place to share documents with their teachers, and it will be a great resource for us. And so we've really concentrated our efforts thus far on that. And then the rest of this year, I hope we can get into programs like Type to Learn and Fast Math and some of the software that you've invested money in as a board for our schools, so that we can really get our students using the technology that way. But our vision's really bigger than that, because we hope that it becomes a tool that students can learn, do projects and do project-based learning, but that's going to require professional development as well. And our Dell rep put in a proposal to the company, and we've actually going to get kind of a grant of about $25,000 worth of professional development starting this summer. And our goal is to train one teacher from every grade level in grades 2 through 6 to create some trailblazers, to get us started, to get it off the ground and build that momentum. And then we will fill in with other professional development along the way. Because if we have one person on every team that goes back and kind of helps with that and develops lessons and things that we can use, that'll really help us. Lisa Trail has also written a grant with State Farm for some professional development money as well, and we've just gotten word this week that we received $5,000 for that. So we're going to look with partnering with Microsoft on making sure that we're getting the full benefit of all the products that we have. So it's exciting. I have to hats off to the technology department and the instruction department. Every department in the whole central office has been working to try to get these computers out as fast as we can. And I also to our technology coaches, they've gone in and had training with faculties, and then they followed up the next day and were actually in the buildings helping teachers move files or do the kinds of things that they're concerned about right now. So we want our teachers to take a deep breath. We're going to let them keep their Apple computers until May, and then we'll kind of work a transition, because we really don't want to interrupt instruction with this. We want to keep instruction as smooth as we can, but yet move forward with this technology initiative. It's very exciting. Students want to know when they're going to come out of the carts and when they're going to get their hands on them, and we've seen the results that some of them actually have been using them yesterday and today.
Dr. Brown and Mr. Barrett has a question, and then Ms. Rainier.
Well, I just wanted to make a comment. The way I look at this is historically we've been able to give our students an exposure to technology. With the investment that we've made, now we're going to be able to immerse our students in technology. And I would again like to thank the City of Murfreesboro and the people who have worked so hard to make this happen. This is truly a change that will affect our students for a long time to come.
It's very exciting.
Dr. Gilbert could probably answer this too, but compared to other districts, we're pretty much light years ahead of where they're at right now as far as implementing this technology.
Right, and I think if you look at the puzzle pieces that we put in place over the years, this was the next step.
Okay.
And so I very much appreciate that. Interestingly enough, it aligns with what the city is doing with upgrading their technology too. So Murfreesboro, I know, is really looking at technology. But it makes sense. I mean, we, with our jobs, we use technology. So why should our children not learn to use technology?
And I'm just excited for the teachers, students finally getting their hands on this technology and just really being able to immerse themselves in it. So thank you, City Council, again for that.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Ms. Renier and then Ms. Phillips.
When you said immerse them in technology, they know more about technology than I do.
You're right.
So I'm so glad that they're there and they can teach me. But the one thing I wanted to say, and I wrote down a quick note this morning, thank your team and thank you. And the time that I was in the schools when we rolled out technology was before Dan came, and every teacher was afraid to touch their computer. And whomever we had at that point in time came in and said, you can't hurt it, go ahead and touch it. And so we've kind of gone, kind of around the block there. But when I was in the library, I can say that Dan came to my rescue, Dustin, Scott, Josh, they were all there. I don't know some of the others, but I know they were wonderful, and I know that they've been a big part of this, so thank you to everybody.
My original question, I had heard that the writing assessment is being broken into 2 parts this year. Is that true?
I'm not sure. Siobhan, is it 2 parts or are there 2 passages? Probably just 2 passages, I think.
It's 2 passages. The first passage, the students will be given an hour, then there's a 30-minute break.
Siobhan, come up so that we can.
I wanted to make sure we were accurate on it.
Yes, there are 2 passages. The first passage and writing prompt will be 60 minutes, and then the students are given a 30-minute break, and then they will have an additional passage, and it may not always be a reading passage. It could be a picture, it could be a video, it could be anything that they're calling a passage, and then they'll have to respond to it with evidence for the second one, and they'll also be given an hour to do that. So they'll have an hour for each of the 2 parts and a 30-minute break in between.
That's very different than what it's been before, isn't it?
Yes, very different.
Very different.
And will that be incorporated in their TCOT?
No, this year, there is no accountability held with this. It's just for exposure.
And it won't count on the student's grade, on their final grade either. So this is low stakes.
The system, the teachers, or the students.
That sounds fantastic.
Just exposure.
It's low stakes.
I'd like to have that next year, by the way, too.
That sounds great.
And this will mirror
story.
what our park assessment will look like. The students will actually read a passage and then have to respond to that. So that's what they're trying to give them some practice to get ready for that, and that's why they've removed the high stakes from it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ms. Hopkins.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Hopkins or Mr. Bashir before they leave the podium? Thank you so much for your update.
I do want to note that almost every person in the tech department has had the flu and got the flu at the same time that the computers came in on a snow day. And so if you saw pictures of everybody in the central office that was available at all unboxing computers, that is the reason why.
Are they learning how to clean off the keyboard?
Disinfectant?
I think Dan's on. He came in yesterday, was given an update, and he said, I'm the only one who hasn't had it, and then immediately knocked on whatever wood he could find. But they've done a tremendous job. I can't say enough about that. Construction update, Gary?
Yes, in your board packet is information about the construction where we are now. Hobgood, we're finishing up the final punch list. We have had some issues with the HVAC, and it's the H part, the heat part, at this time, of making sure that all gets done. They have ordered a part for one of the units, and it should be in today or tomorrow. It's supposed to arrive, and they'll install that. But we are working on set points at night and work on the configuration so we can keep the rooms warm. We did have some issues that I think we're going to be able to work through here as we move a little further. The new school is well under construction. There are 3 pictures in your board packet of overhead pictures of the site. It really looks nice the way it's coming along, and we're real proud of that. We've met and gone through color schemes and things for the building, and it's progressing along nicely. The fencing at the schools and the shop is completed. We do have a few $1,000s left over in that particular budget that we are kind of holding back to wait to see what we need to do with the pre-K as we move the schools around, to move the pre-K classrooms around to the different schools. We're looking to see if we're going to need to put some fences around some playgrounds, so we're holding a little bit of that aside for that move. Central office, we had some hail damage on it, and they're trying to construct now, and they got caught in the weather situation. They can't put the roof on under 40 degrees, and as you know, they've been kind of hung with not being able to do that. They do expect to finish that in a few weeks, though, as soon as they get some weather breaks on that part. Foundation work at Discovery School. If you remember, we talked to you about a foundation that was sinking at one part of the building. We could not find, or the architects could not find the actual blueprints of that building of when it was built, since it's so old. So we're going to have to actually dig down and find the depth of the foundation. Once we get that, then they can finish the drawings. And so we'll be ready to move forward and finish that one. The exterior doors at Mitchell Nielsen Elementary and Primary, we did bids. We didn't like what we got in. We are rebidding it where we're going to do the work and just get the doors to hang. That'll save us money, and we're waiting to go through that process now. We do have some estimates of what it'll be, and it will be a lot less money if we're doing our own work on that. Playground resurfacing, we have a really tight window on those. As you remember, that was in there for Irma Siegel. We have talked with other suppliers. Obviously, we can't do it now because of the weather, but there seems to be a viable alternative that will make that one a lot less than what was in the budget as well. So we're looking forward to getting those bids in here and hopefully get that done this spring. But that's the construction of where we are at this point.
Ms. Vernier has a question, also Mr. Campbell.
I do have a couple of questions, actually. On these pictures that we received, and I don't know that the audience can see them, but on the third picture, it shows kind of the neighborhood. I guess that's not Kings Ridge. What is it? Kingdom Ridge. Kingdom Ridge behind it. So which part of the building is under roof? Because there's a street kind of there. Which is the front of the building? Is that what's under roof now, or is the front of the building where this appears to be a parking lot?
The front of the building is, the back part is the part that has, as you can see, has the roof on it, and that is the back of the building. The
That
front
is
of
the
the
back
building
of the
is by
building.
the road.
Okay. Okay.
The creek runs behind it. There are the tree lines.
Okay. So what wing is that? That's classroom wing, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then in the middle wing, since this third picture, then that is, such as we saw in Franklin, that's the gymnasium to the right?
Gymnasium is in the middle section to the right.
To the right, and the cafeteria is to the left in the front section.
Left in the front, offices are to the right.
Correct.
On the front part. And the other middle section is classroom space as well.
Okay. Okay, so my other question is, I guess more directed to Dr. Gilbert. Can you reveal the colors yet?
Purple and it's gold. Yes,
Oh, it is purple and gold. Okay. And then when can we visit, or can we, at any point in time?
We can arrange for you to go have a visit. We'd need to tell them ahead of time. They have to get a hard hat for you and everything. We can tell them to get you on site.
And we need it to be warmer. I'm not going in this weather, but a little bit warmer.
If you want to go, we'll be glad to
Enjoy.
arrange for a tour of where it is. We'll let them know, so they'll be expecting you.
I thought we should all go together.
Follow me.
I can drive.
We know how you drive.
Yeah.
I'll meet you there.
Cool. Okay, that sounds good. Those were my questions. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Vernier. Mr. Campbell.
Jerry, I don't know whether I'm jumping back into a frying pan and fire or not, but I'm going to ask the question. We were talking about fencing.
Yes, sir.
Where are we on the fencing proposal we had it some time ago with Discovery School?
I think that probably, several months ago, if you'll remember, I had said that I had talked with, at that point, the chief, and the feeling was that for various reasons, at that time, it was because there had not been instances there, and there were some changes happening in the surrounding. Since that time, we had changed our what we do as far as our safety procedures. And so we have not pursued that fence since then unless something, and the decision was made with Chief Christman that if we need to pursue that at some time in the future, we can, but right now, we don't feel that it would be beneficial.
Thank you.
And I'll be happy to talk with you on the phone about that.
I remember now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions about construction? All righty.
He can finish it out.
Budget timeline, I believe, is next. As you know, we've already started the budget process. We started back in December, and we are now into the January piece. Ms. Ridley has some forms, I don't know if they're at your desk or not, for you to fill out any budget things that you think are priorities for us. Are they? Do you have them, Ms. Ridley, there? Okay.
She's made her first mistake.
First
That's
mistake in her
amazing.
entire career at Murfreesboro City School.
Wow.
Holy moly.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Ms. Ridley.
Boy, you caught
I actually
on that
thought I
one.
saw him over there. She thought she made her first mistake, but she didn't. Okay, no, I saw him over there, that's why I asked. Sure.
You are so funny.
She's so, for the public, she is so efficient that she runs circles around everybody. Keeps us going for sure.
Okay, well, we ask that if you have any priorities you would like to see in this year's budget, to fill out the form and turn in. That is the same form that principals use as their guidelines and all department heads. It's a state design form, and it's basically just a summary of it, so they can always add extra information. But that's the form that we use district-wide. And you can just see the process is the same basic process we've used in the past. Just wanted to lay it out for you month by month.
Ms. Grenier.
I have a question, and is this our last year, or was last year our last year of Race to the Top funds?
The year that we're in right now is the last year of Race to the Top funds.
Do we have positions funded by Race to the Top money?
Yes, we do. We have 2 positions and a part of another position.
Can we perhaps at the next meeting get that information?
So it's the will of the board, sure.
Okay.
Or we can just send it to you by email.
That's fine. Okay.
Mr. Barry.
A quick question. When we're going to be looking at the budget, I know we had talked about it. Are you going to show like the previous year, what we had spent, and then the projected? We were talking about like what we're projecting for the next couple years, like a year or 2 out on those categories, or are we not there? Or?
We'll definitely show you where this year we can project out further.
Okay.
The concern that we're going to have is we don't know what the state's doing by the time you have to approve the budget.
Yeah, I understand. It would just be good to have some guesstimates or something, so we can see where we're going in the future. But
okay, we can do it with a lot of assumptions.
Yeah, and of course there are going to be assumptions. They're not going to be hard numbers, but just I'd like to see the future, see where we're going. So.
I remember that was a suggestion Mr. Barrett brought to us that I thought had merit. And of course, nothing's with these 2- and 3-year projections, but it's good to have an idea. So. No, that was just a comment.
Okay. Are there any other questions concerning Mr. Campbell?
On our timeline, what I'm looking at is by April 22nd, we will have approved the budget, and therefore we'll be in plenty of time. It won't be any last-minute decisions before we have to present to City Council.
Yes, the April 22nd is, I believe, the date of your board meeting, and you approve it, then if you've made any changes to it, then we package it up and we get it to City Council. We need to get it to them by May 1st.
Okay. I just would like to make sure that we have plenty of time and we don't have to rush through anything toward the end.
Yeah, I have on here for a work session time, and if you see, I have a window there of April 2 to April 12th, and that would be up to you when you want to have that particular meeting date.
And maybe more than one. Last year, I think we needed more, but we didn't do so.
Okay.
I've not been around before when a new school has been started, but will Mr. Barsh have together like what he thinks that we'll need for purchasing and, for us to prepare for this budget?
Yes.
For Overall Creek by that time?
Yes.
He's
We
on it.
will assist him with, make sure that we have the positions and the supplies needed.
I assume we'll give a little leeway for the things that we don't know about for a new school, or?
Well, part of the construction budget, we'll have technology already in the building, we'll have infrastructure in the building, we'll have the security in there, we'll have all the materials and things that are in the construction, so that helps us establish that. So basically what we're looking at is the operating funds for the school, since the other stuff will be in place.
Or desks and?
That'll be in the construction budget.
That's in the construction budget? The desk isn't? Okay.
Yes, all the furnishings are in there, and the technology is in the construction budget.
Great.
Library books?
That's not in construction, that would be in an operation budget, and that's part of what we need to decide how much we need to start the school with. And because the school, as you know, is going to grow over time, so we'll look at that in the budget process.
And all the moving expenses for Discovery to Bellwood?
We are working on that daily, because we have, as you know, moving the pre-Ks out and moving furniture around and adding other pieces of that puzzle. We meet on that constantly to get our time frame. There's a list of things we have to do. We're establishing responsibility of parties. We're establishing the date to begin, date to end, and the dollars it's going to take. So we'll have that for the budget time, too.
Great.
I have a couple of questions. So, according to this budget timeline, are we looking at using the work study sessions for budget reviews for each of these months, or? I see that we are listed in April, but it usually takes us more than one meeting.
We have basically we will get the information to you on April 1st, and basically we have that month to work it out before we have to get it to City Council. I just picked dates to match what we had in previous meetings, and that, of course, is flexible if you want to change those dates. We basically have a month to go through the process.
Okay, so it would seem to me that if we're going to need extra dates, with April being, we're starting spring, it gets busy, people have, a lot of things happening, that we might need to think maybe in March if we're going to have to, we can tentatively schedule an extra meeting for the board and then cancel it if we wind up not needing it. I just think it gets so busy in the spring with ball games of all different kinds and tennis and shows and just sorts of things. So it's just a thought to throw out there. And then I wanted to ask Ms. Baker a question. Since we were on the subject of dates, Ms. Baker, and we have an election this spring, if I remember correctly, isn't there some kind of rule about not being able to do an evaluation within a certain period of?
It's dealing with hiring directors. There's a blackout period.
Oh, okay.
When you're close to an election.
Okay.
That's.
I was trying to remember what it was. Okay. We've got one.
I didn't say I wanted to, Gary.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions for Mr. Andrews?
Well, just a comment that I thought this interfered with those dates. The spring break, if people are going out of town, is during that 2nd through the 12th. Spring break is the 31st of March to the 4th of April. So, I mean, if you need the board to be here to have a work session, you might want to let them know now.
So, yeah.
Or maybe make it a different week.
Or we may just have to double up another time or whatever. Just so you're aware of it. I'm sure you are, but it probably just didn't think about it on paper.
Well, I left that tentative for you all to set the date.
Okay.
It's 2 through 12.
From 2 to 12 is whenever you want to set it.
Yeah, okay. Just a reminder.
We can fit it in there. We'll work on fitting it in.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, the personnel report's in your packet, and the next one is the financial. We are at a negative $2,700,000 at this time, and this is for 50% of the year, so that's through December 31st. Last year at that time, we were $3,300,000 in the red. A lot of it has to do with timing of receivables and when they get booked into the actual books. On the revenue side, we have collected 43% of our anticipated revenue. Last year at this time, we were at 38.2% of the revenue. You can see basically the biggest difference there is on the local option sales tax, the second line that shows that we actually collected, and again, it was a timing of collections on that. We didn't increase that much. It's just the timing of it when it hit the books. On the expenditure side, we're at 46.2%. Last year at this time, we were at 44%. So we're up a little bit of where we were at this point, but we're still under the 50% mark, so we feel good about that.
Any questions?
Okay. The next item is the attendance report. We had a run of three months going of 97% attendance, and we dropped to 95. I'm sorry. We dropped down for 2 points. Our nursing department is still reporting that we do not have any kind of epidemic in the flu. She says they're seeing no trends of that. They're seeing sporadic flu cases, but no overall major trend at this time, so we're good on that. Our pupil-teacher ratio for K through 3 is 19.11, and 4 through 6 is 20.02. We did increase 10 students from the previous month, and this one ended on 12/6. The date that I had to get this report in was the 20th day, so I couldn't get you the most recent one, so it's like a month behind. That's just because, again, the timing when we had to publish the report. So we should get caught up with it next month when the dates come the next 20-day cycle will have finished. That's really where we are on that. We don't know what else I can say. That's the numbers we have.
Certainly appreciative, Mr. Anderson. Other business or anything you feel need, Mrs. Smith?
I just want to thank all the teachers who've been standing in the carpool lines and getting the kids in the freezing weather. I mean, that is a huge sacrifice. They're out there freezing, and I don't want to forget that they're making this sacrifice for our kids. So thank you to the teachers who've been out there in the freezing elements.
And also the bus drivers, because we've been in communication every day and also at night. And also Lisa for communicating and letting me call, make sure that she had her phone ready to make the call if we needed to. But it's been tough. It's been a very difficult time on students and teachers and personnel across the state and across the nation with it.
So Lisa's the one we need to call to make things happen sometimes, right? Is that...
That would be great.
And you at 3 in the morning.
What a good idea.
Right?
Yeah, there's not much sleep these days.
I don't often talk about all the fabulous guests that have been on my show, but if you get a chance to check out this month's episode of Adventures in Murfreesboro, we have a teacher, Mr. Donald Whitmore, who did the most amazing, powerful rendition of Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech for Adventures in Murfreesboro, and it just will give you chills. And he just did such a fabulous job. You can go to the city website and do it there, or you can check it out on City Channel 3, fabulous city station. So,
are there any other comments or any other business?
We need to thank all these kids for spoiling us.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
Schools.
These are awesome.
We have lovely gifts. Thank you so much. Makes us feel really special.
Yes.
Right.
The signs are, I think that when you walk in, it's just wonderful to see all the bright colors. I think Mrs. Smith, we need to know why Mrs. Smith got so many signs.
Looks like
I'm
she was
excited
supported
about
by
it.
John
It's okay.
Pitter.
I love
Looks
John
like
Pitter. It's awesome.
one grade.
And I have had many invitations, it looks like, to go visit these classes at John Pitter, and I look forward to going by and saying thank you.
Well, certainly we're thankful for the celebration of School Board Week and our proclamation. Mr. Washington, thank you, and thank you to all of our guests that have come to be with us tonight. And if nothing else, we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We adjourn.
Who is